lot of people want to know is, what will be around when, I retire, or how do you think Social Security is going to change in the coming years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I would say the simple answer would be, hey, it's never too late to start, right? Just get started. Doesn't matter how long you've got until retirement, just get started.
Hey, this is Shay.
And this is Carrie.
Welcome to the Pocket Change Podcast,
where you'll learn better ways to spend, save, and invest and take control of your financial journey.
So, Carrie, retirement is a big topic. A lot of people want to know all the ins and outs. When, how much do I need, all those things. So we're going to get into that a little bit today.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this conversation today. I mean, not that I'm that close to retirement. I am closer than you are, however.
We all want to retire one day.
Absolutely. But I do know that a lot of our listeners will be interested in this topic today.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more.
Me too. We're excited to welcome our guest, Kevin Smith, LPL Financial Planner with Leaders Investment Services today. Welcome to Pocket Change, Kevin.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
So tell us a little bit about your career with Leaders Investment Services.
I actually started at Merrill Lynch, and this was back in 2007, and I don't know if you remember what happened in 2008.
Right before the good stuff.
2007 wasn't a good year to start in the investment space. So was with Merrill for about a year, and the crash happened, and when Bank of America came in and bought Merrill Lynch, they laid off 18,000 in the first wave of that. Wow. So I just happened to be the lowest guy on the totem pole and was let go from Merrill, which was really a blessing in disguise. Had talked to Todd Swims, the CEO here at Leaders, and knew that he was trying to get the investment department off the ground. And so 3 interviews later, here I am. So 15 years later, I started in April of 2009. We didn't have an investment program established at the time. So came in, built the program, and we now have over 1,500 clients and manage about $100 million of assets under management.
Wow.
So their loss is our gain then.
That's right. Good to be here.
So, Kevin, we're glad to have you on our investments team serving our members. And today we want to ask, what is income planning and what can our listeners learn about that?
Sure. So, I think traditionally most people think about the accumulation phase of retirement planning. We're really focused on trying to get as much money as humanly possible into a bucket as tax efficient as we can, right? So most people really focus on their 401ks, their working years, trying to accumulate assets over that time period. But I think what we don't really focus a whole lot on is that transition from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase. And so that's very important in, today's times. You have to focus on that distribution phase, and that's really what we try to do at Leaders Investments is focus on that, the shifting of the gear, so to speak, from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase.
So how do you think that retirement income planning has changed over the past 20 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll paint a little picture for you. So let's take my grandfather, for example. My grandfather graduated high school, enlisted in the Navy straight after, as soon as he graduated. Was in the Navy, fought in World War II, and after the war, he basically went back home and started working for a large manufacturing corporation. It was International Harvester in Memphis, and he was there for 35 years, right? It was one employer for a long period of time. And back in those days, you had this thing called a pension, right? And so when he retired, let's say he retired at 62, he had that one job for his entire career, and he had that pension. So that pension replaced his income, probably 85% of his income, his take-home pay, just with the pension alone. Well, then he also had Social Security. Well, that Social Security probably replaced 75% of his income. So, the combination between the two, if you do the math, he was actually making more money retired than he was working, right? Okay, so let's fast forward to my father. So he retired, let's say 10 years ago, right? And he had multiple employers at multiple different places. Well, he didn't have a pension, so he had 401ks at all these different places. So it was his responsibility to make sure that he saved for his retirement in utilizing those 401ks. So today, typically what you'll see is one person will have multiple different employers, different jobs throughout their career, and they'll have multiple 401ks that they use to acquire assets at those 401ks to be able to use as retirement income in the future.
So a lot has changed, and even with Social Security, like you mentioned, as far as income replacement. So what a lot of people ask, and I think what a lot of people want to know is, what will be around when, I retire, or how do you think Social Security is going to change in the coming years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we get that question a lot from clients. They come in, maybe they're starting out in their investing career, and they say, am I even going to have Social
Will it
Security?
even be around?
Yeah, will it even be around, right? So I think the simple answer is yes, I think Social Security will be around. I'll date myself a little bit. I'm 47. I mean, I've got 18 more years to work. I wonder the same thing myself. I think it'll be around. What you'll see is kind of like I talked about before, the percentage of income replacement will be lower, right? When I retire, it might cover 25% of my take-home pay. And the full retirement age will just get older, right? So now at 67, well, it might be 75 or 76 by the time that I retire. So I'll be older before I can take it, and it'll cover less of my income, which is all the more reason why we need to focus on accumulating assets and making sure we're taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. So knowing all that, I mean, what are some of the tools we can use to create that additional income?
Typically, when we sit down with the client, really what we're trying to focus on is what have they got coming in and what have they got going out. So when we sit down with a client, we talk about their expenses, their fixed expenses, their flexible expenses. What are they going to do in retirement? What is it going to cost them in money, right? So somebody might say, hey, I'm going to buy a condo in Florida, or I want to buy a RV and travel around, or whatever they want to do in retirement. That's going to cost money. So we have to figure out what that cost is going to be. So we figure out their expenses, and then we have to figure out what income sources they have coming in. So they may have had a job, 30 years ago that might have had a small pension. So we may have some pension assets there. Do they have a Roth IRA, right? What is their Social Security benefit going to be, and what's the most efficient time to take it, right? How do we maximize that Social Security benefit? What other investable assets do they have that we can use to create those residual streams of income? So we'll really look at what's coming in and what's going out, and then we see if there's a deficit, right? Is there a hole? Do we need replacement income? And so once we figure all of that out and we figure out, okay, there is an income need, we need to fill that gap. How do we do that? A lot of times what we'll do is we'll use an annuity to create a guaranteed income stream. And just by simplest form, an annuity basically is it's a contract with an insurance company. And essentially what you'll do is you'll take a lump sum of money. Let's just use $100,000, for example. You'll take $100,000 and you'll put it into an income annuity, and it basically will pay you a guaranteed income stream that you can't outlive, right? So it really creates, if you think about it, like a self-pension. Right? You're creating your own pension, okay? The benefit of it is you'll never run out of money. So that's the benefit of the annuity. So it can create that guaranteed income stream that you can't outlive. Some other tools that we use managed accounts or investment accounts, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, where you'll pull a distribution rate off of that portfolio. So let's say you're pulling 3 to 4% off of that portfolio. You might aim for 3 to 4% of a distribution rate. And if you've got that same $100,000, that's going to create 4%, $4,000 of income per year, right? So that's a sustainable distribution rate. Typically, you won't run out of money if you have a lower distribution rate.
Hopefully, you're earning a little more than you're pulling out.
That's right. So it's earning interest as it's growing as you're pulling away, right? And so it should be able to sustain your income needs in retirement. So those are some of the tools that we use. There are other ones that we can get into detail on, but that's the high level overview.
So people are at different stages in their life and career. So what advice would you have to those who are 30, 20, or 10 years out from retirement?
I would say the simple answer would be, hey, it's never too late to start, right? Just get started. Doesn't matter how long you've got into retirement, just get started. For the folks that are 30 years out, I would say Roth IRA would be a great thing to invest in. Without going into the specifics of the Roth IRA, basically it's going to provide you tax-free income when you retire. So you can grow the funds on a tax-deferred basis, which is going to grow like your retirement account. You're not going to pay tax on the gain, but when you get to access the funds in retirement, it will be tax-free. Okay, that's going to be a big thing when you retire. So 30 years old, I'd definitely do a Roth IRA. That's the first place to get started. 20 years out, I would probably lean pretty heavily on my employer-sponsored plans, right? If you're 20 years out from retirement, start fully funding your 401ks. get the full match, right? Fund your 403Bs. Fund those employer-sponsored retirement plans. 10 years out from retirement, you should probably be at least starting to think about the distribution phase, maybe setting some things up into place geared towards, hey, I'm going to probably need this for income in the future. So I would at least start thinking about that. That's where we can kind of come in, help you out, see what you've got, see if there's anything that you might need to transition into to line those assets up for income in the future.
So you can help our current members, future members with their investment planning and advising, but what makes Leaders Investment Services different from other brokerage firms?
Great question. So, I would say our value proposition at Leaders Investment Services, it really is, we try to focus on holistic, comprehensive financial planning. We're not just focused on the accumulation phase. So I really believe strongly in beginning with the end in mind. And that's kind of how we approach things with clients, right? If we know exactly where we're going, we can figure out how to get there in the most efficient way,
Right.
on the most tax efficient basis. So, we look at the accumulation phase, obviously, the distribution phase, maximizing Social Security planning, right? And then the legacy aspect of it. What if you don't spend all the money? It's got to go to somebody. How do you pass those assets on as efficiently as possible to the next generation? So that's really what makes us different. We don't just focus on the accumulation phase. We do that, but we also focus on all aspects of financial planning.
And so if any listeners want to get a hold of you or want to sit down and have a chat about their situation, what's the best way to do that?
I'd say probably the easiest way to get a hold of us is the Leaders Credit Union website. The same website that you go to for online banking. Just go to leaderscu.com and click on the investment tab at the top. You can actually book an appointment right there online.
Yeah, that's easy. So book an appointment online, leaderscu.com. You can call and we could make an appointment over the phone. So easy way to access just by making an appointment and setting up a meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I've got one last question for you, Kevin.
Yes, Carrie.
If you were to find some extra change in your pocket, how would you spend it?
So let's see, extra change in my pocket. Well, let me actually answer that question with a question.
Okay.
Oh,
What is the fastest way to double your money?
Invest it.
compound interest.
Fold it in half, right? Fastest way to double your money, all right?
Investments.
So that's
Yeah,
probably what I would
joke.
do with my pocket change. I'd fold it in half. I'd save it. No, I mean, if I had to really answer the question, I'd probably say so my son has a big plastic baby bottle that we got him when he was a baby, and it's a bank.
Yeah.
And so anytime I've got loose change in my pocket, I'll just plop it in the baby bottle, and I've written on the outside, retirement fund. I'm sorry, college fund is what I wrote on the outside. So that's his college fund, but yeah, I'd probably just toss it in the old baby bottle.
Helping out the kids. There you go.
That's great.
That's right.
Well, we thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Pocket Change Podcast.
Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and check out our full episodes on YouTube,
The Pocket Change Podcast is brought to you by Leaders Credit Union.
where we power your passion and make lives better.
Cha-ching.
Leaders is federally insured by the NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
Learn more at leaderscu.com.
The opinions voiced on this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Securities and advisory services are offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Insurance products are offered through LPL or its licensed affiliates. Leaders Credit Union and Leaders Investment Services are not registered as a broker-dealer or investment advisor. Registered representatives of LPL offer products and services using Leaders Investment Services and may also be employees of Leaders Credit Union. These products and services are being offered through LPL or its affiliates, which are separate entities and not affiliates of Leaders Credit Union or Leaders Investment Services. Securities and insurance offered through LPL or its affiliates are non-bank deposits or obligations, may lose value, not bank guaranteed, and not insured by FDIC or any other government agency.